Hello, welcome to Word Empowerment Seminar this beautiful Thursday evening. My name is Mofi Okpala, your regular host on Word Empowerment Seminar. Today, I'll be discussing something I consider very interesting. I titled it Managing Unmet Expectations in Marriage. You know, it will shock you that most marriages experience unmet expectations because you do not know your spouse as much before you marry them. No matter how long you dated, you will get to learn your spouse in marriage. Now, there's a joke that one of my pastor friends used to make, that marriage, after your wedding, they give you a certificate, because marriage is one thing that you get the certificate before you go for the learning. So when you get the certificate, it's a proof that you are married, but you have to go and learn the person, learn how to get married. So there is a lot of unmet expectations in marriage. Some of them are just insignificant, but sometimes they are major. It can revolve around how the person spends money, or how the person keeps money, or the generosity of the person. It can also revolve around whether the person is there for you as you thought the person should be. It can also revolve around sex. So there are always unmet expectations in marriages. And one way that people do is they cope with it. But the danger of coping with it, it's not bad to cope, but the danger of coping with it is that it accumulates. When expectations are unmet and it's accumulating, it can lead to something bigger in the future. So to help your relationship, there are things that you need to do to manage unmet expectations. The first thing I will say to you is that don't have unrealistic expectations. A lot of people, because they say, husband, love your wife as Christ loves the church, they expect their husbands to be Christ. Don't expect from your husband what Christ can do for you. Don't expect from your spouse what God will do for you. There's a level of comfort your spouse should give you, but there's only a level that only God can give. And your spouse is only but a human being. So you cannot expect that. So manage, first of all, the first thing to manage unmet expectation is to manage your expectation. Do not attribute to God what your husband should do, and should not attribute to your husband what you got to do. For instance, in fulfillment cannot come from your spouse. Your spouse can only aid it. Fulfillment comes from your relationship with God. So if you are waiting for your spouse to make you fulfilled, and your spouse cannot make you fulfilled, you get married and your spouse cannot make you fulfilled, people have gotten divorced because of that simple thing. Because they felt empty and unfulfilled. And they thought that when they get married, they will be happy and they will be fulfilled. And they got married and they were not fulfilled. And you will see that the spouse is trying hard to make them happy. But they can't get happy because it's like that inner fulfillment. And they now start attributing it to the ineffectiveness of the spouse because they're not fulfilled. That is what I may call an unrealistic expectation. Because it's only God that can give you true fulfillment. Your spouse can only aid it. Popular preacher Joyce Meyer, I learned this from her. She was expecting her husband to be everything that she expected to solve all her problem. But God called her attention to this, that don't expect your husband to do what I am meant to do for you. Don't expect your wife to do what I am meant to do for you. So manage your expectation. Know that these are some things that God can do for you, and there are some things that can come from your spouse. There are other things, when it's now things that should come from your spouse. Maybe your spouse needs to be more there for you and sit with you and talk with you, but your wife is not a talker. What do you do if there's an unmet expectation there? Communicate in a loving way. So the first, manage your expectation. The second, communicate your expectations in a loving way. Communicate your expectations in a loving way. Don't expect your husband to be or your wife to be the Holy Spirit that will know what is in your mind. If your husband or your wife doesn't know what is in your mind, they cannot respond to what is in your mind. So if you're having your unmet expectation in your mind alone, you'll be making it very difficult for your spouse to respond to it. Now, your spouse loves you And if they know that it's an expectation that they require and they can meet that expectation, they will actually do it. See, recently, me and my wife, my wife shared with me, actually, that's the first time. My wife shared with me the 5 love languages, a test to say our 5 love languages. The love language. Everybody has a love language. That's the truth. And unmet expectation are because of love languages. So we did it together, and it turned out that my wife's expectations were different from my expectations. And we learned that is one way of communicating. So when we communicated, when we had some issues again, not long after we shared that, I said, see, you know me now. You see that my expectation is affirmation. The number one is affirmation. So if I don't get that affirmation from my number one, that's what I expect from my number one cheerleader, then it will affect me. So I'm apologizing that I behaved that way, but I was expecting an affirmation from my number one cheerleader. So we had that conversation. So communicate your expectations to your spouse. There are some of those expectations that your spouse will meet and will be happy to meet if they only know. But some of them, they don't have the capacity to meet it at that point in time. That leads me to the third, to manage expectations or meet expectations. Give time for your spouse to develop in that area. Give time for your spouse to develop in that area. Let me take sex as an example. You are someone has been exposed because of your past life into sexuality, and your wife or your husband, let's take it from husband now. Your husband is someone that was a virgin before he got married to you. If your expectation is to get the satisfaction from the sex like you were having from the previous experiences, you'll be making a mistake. So that unmet expectation, and I can tell you this, marriages have broken because of that unmet expectation. Because the people did not apply this last one. This principle. After communicating that expectation to your spouse might not be able to accomplish it in the short term. But because your spouse loves you, your spouse starts developing that ability over time. Over time, you will see that the spouse is trying to make it better. For instance, in my own marriage, I know that my wife likes what I call, in the language is touch, physical touch. I'm not someone that I can be lost sometimes. I can be lost. I can be in my pursuit of God, be lost in my pursuit of God, and I don't give my wife that attention. If I did not know it, I would have kept on doing what I'm doing, thinking I'm doing right, but I'll be doing wrong. But now that I know, it's now for my wife to give me that benefit of doubt that I'm working on it. And me, myself, I start working on it to be more attentive to her, to be more compassionate to her, to touch her more, to hug her, to hold her, to all those things more, because that is her own expectation. I might not be doing it effectively now, but because I have that consciousness, I work towards it. So 3 things that you do to manage your unmet expectation when you get into marriage. Unmet expectations don't have to lead to breakdown of marriage. Unmet expectations can be worked on and built. If one, you don't have unrealistic expectations. 2, you communicate those expectations to your spouse. And 3, after communicating the expectations to your spouse, be patient with your spouse to develop their capacity to meet that expectation. I hope this helped you. This is Word Empowerment Seminar, and you can watch us every Thursday by 5:30 p.m. either on YouTube or on Facebook. Also, if you are ever in Enugu, we would love you to worship with us at the Cornerstone Church. The details are on the screen. You can worship in our 8 a.m. service or our 9:30 a.m. service. You are guaranteed to experience God meeting you at the point of your need. Thank you for joining me again today. You can call me on 0703 0099275 if you want to reach me for inquiries, counseling, or any other thing. And I pray for you today May your best life be your daily experience.